Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about which brands people are currently researching into the most, because this could show us what the rest of this year is going to look like when it comes to sales within individual car brands. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So Kelley Blue Book released a report talking about brand consideration, and I find this report absolutely fascinating because there has definitely been some shifts in terms of what people are looking for with cars, and a lot of it has been stuff that I have been touting for quite some time. So first off, the big headline figure is that, well, Toyota is still the most considered brand in the United States. However, it is losing its market share when it comes to consideration. It's at 32% of shoppers are considering, purchasing a Toyota, whereas brands like Chevrolet and Ford are increasing in terms of consideration. 31% for Chevrolet and then 30% for Ford. And then Honda is actually also, just like Toyota, losing brand consideration. It's down to 21%. And let's quickly talk about why this consideration is so important, because consideration eventually turns into car deals. And so if people are not even considering a brand, then the likelihood that they'll actually buy from that brand is very minimal. And so with shoppers considering domestic brands more often and foreign brands like Toyota and Honda less often, that shows a shift in the US market. And this, perfectly shows why Chevy is now, or not Chevy, but GM rather, is now the largest automaker here in the US in terms of, volume of vehicles sold, because, well, more people are considering that brand and fewer people are considering Toyota as a brand, and, well, the sales numbers show. And so from the first part of this consideration report, what we can pull out of it is that domestic brands are increasing in terms of consideration, which kind of makes sense because of a lot of things that are going for them. And then, some foreign brands that are really popular like Toyota and Honda are decreasing in terms of consideration. And there are some things going against those brands currently. We'll talk about this later on in the video, but I want to dive into consideration by segments. So 66% of buyers are considering an SUV, 36% a pickup truck, 32% a car, and 5% a minivan. Now, obviously this adds up to over 100%, and that's because, you could have a situation where all 36% of pickup truck buyers are also considering an SUV, which then obviously would make it so you could have over 100% with the percentages. But when you dive into individual vehicles, this is where I find things to be pretty fascinating. So the number one SUV that buyers are currently considering, Dodge Durango. Number 2 is Honda CR-V. Number 3, Ford Explorer. Number 4, Toyota Highlander. And number 5, Toyota RAV4. When it comes to pickup trucks, Silverado 1500, Ford F-150, GMC Sierra 1500, Ram 1500, and then Ford Super Duties. And then with cars, Accord, Camry, Civic, Charger, Mustang. And then when it comes to minivans, Pacifica is actually number 1, believe it or not. Toyota Sienna, Odyssey, Pacifica Hybrid. So Pacifica is 2 different places. The regular Pacifica is number 1, and then the Hybrid's number 4. And then the Kia Carnival, which is not a minivan. It's a multi-purpose vehicle. Kia is very stern on that, so I find that part funny. But when you dive into individual models outside of the segment, so just like across the car industry, the number 1 most considered vehicle right now, Silverado 1500. Number 2, Ford F-150. So yes, Chevy is in fact beating Ford. GMC Sierra is number 3. Ram 1500 is number 4. And then the new Super Duty is number 5. So notice pickup trucks are the most considered vehicles when you look at individual vehicles. Obviously, it's not the most considered segment, but the vehicle is really popular. Dodge Durango, number 5. And then you've got Honda CR-V, and then you've got Silverado 3500, 2500, Honda Accord, and then Ford Explorer, and then we have Toyota Camry just after that. And so, as you can see, obviously this kind of mirrors what we usually see in the US market, where pickup trucks are more popular than SUVs. But pickup trucks, even though everyone's complaining about the prices, are the most considered vehicles when you take into account individual models, and pickup trucks as a segment, it's the second most considered segment in the US market. So let's talk about why this is important and what this means moving forward for the car market. So when it comes to importance, we first have to actually dive into why certain manufacturers are doing really well when it comes to consideration and why other manufacturers are not being considered as much, and then also in the individual segments. So first off, if you look at the domestic manufacturers, manufacturers, availability is really strong. Like you go into a Ford dealership, a Chevy dealership, a Ram dealership, you have options to look at. Whereas if you go into a Toyota dealership or a Honda dealership, for example, which those are two brands that are decreasing in consideration, availability is not very good right now. Like you have to basically go in and you have no cars to look at, and then you have to get on a list to then get a car down the road. And so when you have two manufacturers that are competing in the same market, one manufacturer has vehicles and the other doesn't, you know, shoppers here in the US that are used to just going in, even though the last couple of years has kind of pushed people more into ordering, but you know, still there's the mindset of just going in and buying a car, they're going to go into the manufacturer where they can just buy a car today. And on top of that, because availability is greater, the discounts are also greater. Ford dealers, Ram dealers, Chevy dealers, right? They're willing to discount their product. Whereas if you go to a Toyota dealership, why would they discount their product when they don't have enough cars to sell, and why they, you know, when they have lists of people willing to buy the cars, there's no reason to discount the product. And this is, I think, a big reason is, again, the lack of availability and then the lack of discounts on this product because availability is so small. And so you have people going, well, I can buy this vehicle today and I can get a big discount off of it. I think I'll do that rather than paying full MSRP and waiting, you know, 6 months for the vehicle to come in. And then when you dive into the, you know, individual segments, pickup trucks increasing in popularity actually makes quite a bit of sense, because although gas prices are higher yet again, they're still not at all-time highs compared to what we saw during certain parts of the pandemic. And there were certain times last year where gas prices got pretty low. And so that makes sense as to why more people are considering pickup trucks, because when gas prices are lower, people are more open to larger vehicles because fuel economy is not as important for them. And so that makes sense why there's that shift towards pickup trucks, and especially towards larger pickup trucks. When fuel is inexpensive, more people are going to consider that. And what I just talked about in the domestic versus foreign brand situation, where again, domestic brands have greater availability and they've got bigger discounts, so that's why more people are going for them. This also applies to individual segments and also individual cars. Like if you look at the minivan segment, the Chrysler Pacifica, right? It's got 2 spots in terms of consideration, and that's because they're readily available and you can get discounts on them. Whereas you look at a Sienna or an Odyssey, they're hard to get and there's definitely not going to be discounts on those vehicles. And so people, again, are going to be considering the vehicles that they can, again, they have more availability with, and they can get a bigger discount. And so this is where this dives into what this means for the car market moving forward. This shows what buyers are looking for, like perfectly. Buyers are looking for value. Buyers are looking for discounts, right? Affordability. This is something that I've been preaching time and time again. This is what people are considering more than anything else, is how affordable is the vehicle, and obviously how long do they have to wait for the vehicle. So the manufacturers that are able to capitalize on those 2 items or several items actually, by providing value at an affordable price point, or, you know, affordable for the market, I guess is what I should say, those are the ones that are going to, you know, get the most market share. And this is why we're seeing, again, manufacturers like General Motors just eat up market share left and right, especially from, you know, their competition in Toyota and Honda. And so if manufacturers like Toyota and Honda want to, you know, basically stop the loss of market share, they need to seriously like ramp up production with their product. And I know that not everyone's going to agree with me on this point, but here's the deal. Like it just comes down to, you know, things on the micro scale with car sales. Again, you have to put yourself in the mindset of the average buyer. If you're going out and you're shopping for a car and you're going to buy a car in, let's say, the next, you know, few days or the next few weeks or even, you know, the next month, right? Then what you're going to do is you're going to be looking at what is available right now, right? You're not going to be looking at what is available in 6 months after you put your name on a list. So when it comes down to that, right, manufacturers need to look at things from that perspective rather than trying to look at things from, you know, perfectly managing supply so that they can keep prices where they need to keep them so they don't have to discount the product at all. But let me know what you guys think about this situation, and let me know if you are now considering some of the domestic product because of a lack of availability of, you know, some of the foreign brands that you might have normally shopped in the past, and because of the lack of discounts as well. I'll see ya.